Okay, good morning. Good morning. It's wonderful to be at Queens Borough Hall. It is a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank everybody for coming out today. We are really beginning today, and welcome to our first public hearing of the 2024 Charter Revision Commission. And on behalf of the entire commission, I would like to thank Borough President Donovan Richards for hosting us here in Queens. By the way, this room is spectacular, so congrats to Queens for having such an amazing public meeting space. My name is Carlos Chasseur. I'm chair of the commission and honored to be here. We have with us our vice chair, Dr. Hazel Dukes, who I believe is here virtually on Zoom. Our secretary, Ken Nye, who is also on Zoom. Kyle Bragg, Reverend Herbert Daughtry, Ruben Diaz Jr., Lorraine Grillo, Stephanie McGraw, Jackie Rowe Adams, and Rabbi Chaim Steinmetz, who is also joining us virtually. So before we begin, I'd like to ask our commissioners to just give a quick hello. And I'm going to start, Ruben, with you.
Welcome, everyone, greetings from the Boogie Down Bronx. It's always a pleasure to be in Queens. And I'm looking forward to hear the concerns of the residents here in Queens on how is it that we on this commission can move forward to do something significant with regards to the charter of the city of New York that would impact in a positive way at least the most amount of New Yorkers. Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Stephanie McGraw. I am from Harlem and honored to be here in Brooklyn and honored to be here on this committee. And I thank the mayor. And I am here to hear your voice and your concerns and to be the voiceless of the people of Queens. And I love Queens because this is where all the queens are, you know. I mean, we got kings here too, but
Exactly.
Queens, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm Kyle Bragg, lifelong resident of Queens. I live less than 8 miles from Queens Borough Hall. I'm just honored to be here with my fellow commissioners to work to make this city a city that works and addresses issues for all communities of New York City, and particularly the most marginalized communities, and make sure that those communities have a voice in government.
Thank you, Kyle. And I should add, I think I said this at the last meeting, Kyle and I served on the 2019 Charter Commission. Great. Jackie.
Good morning, Jackie Rowe Adams. I'm in Harlem, Manhattan, and I just want to welcome all of you. And I'm just so glad to be a part of the charter, just to hear your concerns and to get a chance to let our voices be heard and be the voice for the voiceless. So thank you. We have work to do together, and I'm looking forward to it.
Morning, everyone. My name is Lorraine Grillo, and I agree with all my colleagues on the commission that this is a real pleasure to be here, to see all of you show up. And I want to let you know that I grew up in Queens and was a Queens activist for many years. So it's really a pleasure to be on the other side of the microphone. But thank you so much for coming.
I'm Herb Daughtry. Just glad to be on this commission, and to our chairman and to all the members of the commission. It comes rarely that you have an opportunity to engage in business activity that indeed has limitless potential for influencing not only the city of New York, but because New York is an international city, you have the opportunity perhaps to say something, to do something that will have an impact on the world. And that comes really, and I'm glad and proud and humbled to be a part of the commission.
Thank you, sir. And I agree, whatever New York does has an impact on the world, and I like that. I also want to thank our executive director, our general counsel, and the entire staff for their work in getting us here today. I know you guys are going to be busy today and tomorrow, in particular, getting all of our schedule ready for the next few weeks, and we are excited to continue to work hard on this. So before we hear from members of the public who have joined us today and who want to testify, let me just say a couple of words. Some of them I said last week. We were formed by Mayor Adams. The commission was created May 21st. We are tasked with reviewing the entire city charter and recommending changes that will help New York City government work more efficiently and better serve all New Yorkers. We are excited to be here, as I said, in Queens, which is, although we had a meeting last week, this is our first public hearing meeting. And we will be soliciting recommendations and comments on how to improve city government from members of the public, like at this forum, from experts in certain areas of expertise that we will hear from hopefully in the next week and 2 weeks. And it'll be exciting to hear what's on people's minds. At the end of the process, the commission will determine what proposals to take to the voters in form of a ballot question or questions, and that will appear on the ballot at the November 5th general election. So today, the commission welcomes members of the public to comment both in person and via Zoom, and we will be hearing comments from both in-person and virtual participants. This hearing, what we like to call input session, is the first in a series of meetings and a series of hearings to listen and gather ideas from the public on improving the city charter. We will be hosting additional sessions around the city in the coming weeks, and I believe we will come back to Queens for a round 2. We encourage you to tell your friends and neighbors to come out and let us know how they think we can ensure that city government is working for all New Yorkers. We will do our best to accommodate everyone who speaks. If we run out of time before it's your turn, we ask that you please consider attending a future meeting or submitting comments in writing, but it is at least my desire to hear from everyone who comes to these meetings. Future hearing dates will be on our website, www.nyc.gov/charter, and comments may be submitted in writing to charterinfo@citycharter.nyc.gov between now and July 12th. So we've got about 5 weeks. If you can't make a meeting, please submit your comments, obviously, in writing. So we are ready to rock and roll, and I'm going to call as our first speaker, Iraq Chehansky, and if I said that wrong, I am sorry, who is the Director of Budget at the Queens Borough President's Office.
Hello, thank you. Your the last name perfect.
Awesome.
It doesn't happen.
I have a tough last name, so I appreciate your suffering.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, good morning, everyone,
morning.
Chair
Good morning.
and rest of the Charter Revision Commission. My name is Iraq Chehansky Rivas, and I serve as the Director of Budget for the Queens Borough President, Donovan Richards. Unfortunately, the Borough President is unable to attend today's session, so I will be delivering the following testimony on his behalf. Today, we'd like to speak about Section 102, Paragraph B of the New York City Charter, which addresses expense allocations available to the Borough Presidents in the city's budgetary process.
Can you just repeat what section that was again?
102, Paragraph B. Specifically, it gives us the formula for how funding is dispersed to each Borough President's office. This formula is the average of each borough's share of the city's population, each borough's share of the population living below the 125% of the poverty line, and each borough's share of the city's total land area. In its current state, the formula does not allow for an equitable distribution of funding across the boroughs. This formula does not take into consideration the rapid pace of population growth, which Queens has experienced in the recent years. It does not take into consideration current economic impacts to renters and homeowners. Even though Queens continues to be the fastest growing borough in terms of population and housing, and that Queens is the largest borough by land area, our expense funding per capita is the lowest in the city. For example, in the fiscal year 2024 adopted budget, Queens population was over 2,400,000 and received $2.20 per person in expense funding. In comparison, Manhattan receives $3.05 per person in expense funding, despite having nearly 800,000 fewer residents. Even more egregious is Staten Island, which receives $9.54 per person in expense funding, despite having nearly 2 million fewer residents than Queens. All of this means Queens residents receive much less in overall investment than residents of other boroughs. And this injustice must be rectified. The expense funding formula is outdated and has not kept up with the times, plain and simple. If we are to ensure that every New York City resident gets their fair share of funding, the formula must be updated. For example, the formula could include the forecast of creation of school seats projected by the School Construction Authority in the 5-year capital plan. Excuse me. This element will allow the city to factor in the population growth already expected by the administration and will allow to reach population who may not be receiving any benefits and therefore not considering in other population metrics. I urge the Charter Revision Commission to look into this matter and ensure the legal text our city adheres to takes into account the current socioeconomic reality we live in. I thank you for the time and commitment to work together in addressing this and other pressing matters as to better serve the communities we represent in New York City. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. I'm not going to do this with every speaker, but because it is the borough president's official testimony, do any of the commissioners have any comments or questions? Sorry to bring you back.
Mr. Chairman, I do.
Yes, yes, former borough president.
Hello, how are you? See
Good
you.
morning, good morning. Just for a point of clarity, is it the borough president's position or your office's position that the capital budget for borough presidents is not equitable, or is it also the budget that's allocated for running the office?
This is for running the office, expense funding,
The
like the
expense-
operational funding.
How about capital, a capital budget?
Well, capital, I think it's distributed by mostly like
Formula.
by the land. So Brooklyn is the one that receives more
So-
than us, and we are in the
So
receiving.
you don't want us to examine that?
No, that one is good.
Okay. Do you feel that, or is it the position of the borough presidency that as an elective office, maybe that you should participate more or there should be a set amount of allocation for your office, and the fact that it's in the hands of other elected officials, even though the borough presidents are elected as well?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that question? I don't think I
In
followed.
other words, the borough presidents are elected, correct? The
Yes.
city council's elected,
Yes,
the mayor is elected.
yes.
And does the borough president work for the mayor?
No, there's an
Does the
independent office.
borough president work for the city council?
No, it's a dependent office.
And yet they are the ones who determine what your budget should be.
Yeah, it says in the charter, it has to be through, also through, introduction, change of the law. But also we do believe that it's worth the time of the Charter Revision Commission to analyze this, because it's been this investment that has been done for over 40 years. And I think it's time to revisit that.
So you want us to look at that. Do you have any suggestions as to what we should do with that
Yes,
section of the law?
as mentioned, so I mean, we can send more options, but like on top of mind is if the School Construction Authority is already projecting that we need to increase schools in Queens because we're understated, like we have less seatings than most. We're overpopulated in terms of school. That element will allow you to catch people who do not manage to get into other population metrics, people who are not receiving any type of benefits, and therefore are not considered into any formula to distribute the funding. And we do, every borough president, as you know, we do our effort to reach out to every member of our borough, no matter if you're receiving benefits or not. And that impacts the way we can operate with the funding that we have.
And Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I don't want.
Please, please.
But the reason why I posed the question, and I'm sorry that my English didn't serve me well,
Mhm.
the way I posed it initially about being part of the process, is that in my former life as a borough president, the borough presidents are the only elected officials who represent an entire borough.
Mhm.
And so even in that assessment, I was wondering whether it was the position of the borough president that you should be able to at least submit what do you think are the projections, moving forward in terms of schools to the city council, to the mayor's office, so OMB and so on and so
Oh,
forth.
definitely. These are conversations that we already started.
As opposed to them just, giving you what they believe the
Yeah, yeah.
projection should be.
No, definitely. That's something, the conversation that we already started with OMB and I believe some members of the council. So that's something we're pursuing, but this announcement came very at hand and timely. So we decided to explore both because we want Queens to get the money. So
I yield my time, Mr. Chairman, just I have a special place in my heart for borough presidents.
As do I, as do I.
Excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like for him to repeat the section because I like to study it. Can you repeat
yeah,
it, please?
section is section 102. Particularly, this is paragraph B.
Just to put a little context, only because I spent many years in a borough president's office. The way formulas are allocated, as you mentioned and as Ruben mentioned, is based on land and population. So, for example, in the capital budget, Queens will always get the most in terms of capital funding. Brooklyn is second. In my previous life, I would have argued that Brooklyn should be first, but I don't argue that anymore because we love all 5 boroughs equally. But and I can tell you in charter commissions in the past, this issue has come up a few times. So it's not the first time we're hearing it, and we appreciate you bringing it to us. I would say if you want to elaborate on your testimony and forward us a copy of more, we'd be happy to take it. And we
Fantastic.
appreciate your testimony.
I'll make sure to expand on
Great.
that example and others.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Have a good
sir.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
Is there a time limit? How long do we meet?
How long do we meet?
Today, I mean.
Let's see who's here to testify.
Mhm.
Let's see how many people are testifying.
Oh, so our time is dictated by the.
I wouldn't say it's dictated, but we'd like to hear from as many people as we can.
All right.
So we'll see shortly where we are.
Oh,
I should mention there are little over maybe 35 to 40 folks and counting on Zoom, which is exciting. Danielle Brecker.
Good morning, thank you.
morning.
I am Danielle Brecker. I live in Long Island City in Queens. I am a member of Community Board 2 in Queens. But I am speaking today as, being a member of Community Board 2 informs my testimony. I'm not speaking for the Community Board. And I also just want to say that I just found out about this last night at about 5 o'clock. So more notice would be great. And my testimony, I don't have a section of the charter. I will send you more detailed testimony that I will write later. But I'm actually here to talk about a frustration of being on a community board and doing a lot of work to kind of negotiate with developers to make sure we're getting truly affordable housing and amenities such as libraries and park space, and then having no ability as a community board to enforce that. And it would be nice if the charter would help back that up, back community boards up. We are the first line of government. Often we're hearing the concerns about housing and climate and so many other things. But when we go in and spend hours and hours, talking with people who are doing things in our community and making agreements, there's no way to enforce what we're agreeing to. So I would be great if the charter could help us do that. I also just want to add to what the borough president's testimony was, that finding a way to make sure we get especially capital funding for the many infrastructure issues we have in the district would be really terrific, because I do live in a community that is suffering with lack of park space, lack of updated sewers, problems with transit, and a lack of investment in public housing. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And we, I'm certain will look at community boards as the last chartered one did as well. And they are clearly a very integral part of society and of the landscape of New York. I served on Community Board 11 in Brooklyn for many years ago, but so I understand. Okay. Do we have any other speakers signed up to provide testimony? Yes. Forward it. He's coming. Yatin Chu. I hope I said that right.
Said it perfectly.
All right, I'm batting 1,000 on names
Yes,
today.
you are. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yatin Chu. I am a resident of Queens and a public school parent. I've become more politically engaged in the last few years due to my advocacy in public school education. I'm here to speak about the bill that City Council has put forward to change their role in the mayor's appointment of his commissioners. I want to say that we elected the mayor as the leader of the city to run the city and to be held accountable for everything that goes on in the city. The problem with letting city council advise and consent is then no one is accountable. The mayor will blame the council, and the council will say the commissioner reports to the mayor, and the clear lines of accountability is then blurred. And I believe that our government needs to be held accountable. Our leaders need to be held accountable. While I was no fan of former Mayor de Blasio, I did support mayoral control for the same reason. Additionally, as an Asian American, my community has been very unhappy with the current city council members and the policies that they've pushed forward. I do not think that this minority caucus should have a stronghold on what happens in the city. The latest example was what happened in December when they pushed through the How Many Stops Act, and the mayor correctly vetoed it, and they overrode his veto. And that was a symbol to me that we have a city council that's not truly representative of the majority of New Yorkers who want effective policing, community policing. Additionally, many of our city council members, just glancing at their records, their election records, were elected by less than 1% of their constituents. I mean, it's a travesty that we have such low turnout in our local races, but that is the fact. And I do not believe that we should be giving this body of city council members, each of them having a very small number of constituents that actually support them, to actually have more power. So I'm here to ask this commission to put this up for a referendum. I mean, if this is what we think it should be considered, it should not be done by city council. I think it needs to be done by the populace. All of New Yorkers need to have a say in this. Thank you for considering my opinion. Have a good day.
Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Loretta Humphrey. Miss Humphrey, come on up.
Greetings and good morning.
Good morning.
I know a few of you up there. I'm a novice at this.
Just speak closer to the mic.
I said, good morning. I'm a novice at this. I want to say that my name is Loretta Humphrey. I am the president of the Greater Triangle Civic Association in Southeast Queens. I am a retired of DC 37, and I want to talk about Queens. I live in Queens. Queens, the fastest growing borough in the world. I'm very proud of Queens. I'm very proud of my council member, Natasha Williams, and the work that she does. But I want to say that wherever the money is coming from, we need more money for infrastructure in Southeast Queens, in Queens alone. Queens suffers a high water table that is a Band-Aid. Everything is a Band-Aid for our high water table. I'm also a member of SQUIRGE, which is the Southeast Queens Environmental Justice Council. And we have been fighting for the last 20 years trying to get those wells pumped in Northern Queens and Southern Queens. We know that the high water table cannot be solved unless you pump those wells. Now, it is my understanding that they're saying that they don't have the money to pump, but in some areas, like in the Western Queens, the wells are being pumped and they have a solution there. But Southeast Queens is overburdened. I don't want to get emotional, but we are overburdened with the high water table and the flooding. And hopefully the borough president and the mayor will hear. And I also wanted to talk about, somebody talked about private developers. I think that government is giving the private developers too much authority to come into our communities and make decisions about how we should live or be living. I think we may not know infrastructure, we may not be experts here and there, but we definitely know what harms us in our community, because I've been in my community over 40 years. And I definitely know my floors was not saturated with moisture, but now today my floors in my home is being saturated. So I think that wherever the money's coming from, we have to put it into the infrastructure. And the private developers, I'm not in agreement with an 80-year moratorium on their taxes. The homeowners, they have to pay taxes every year. There has to be some limit for the developers as far as how many years the tax break gets, because we don't get a tax break. And Community Board 12 absolutely has no power. And it's very hurtful for the community to come out every Wednesday and listen to people who tell us what they're going to do in our community and not say, work with us. So I'd like to see more private developers come into the community, talk to the community, and take some ideas from the community. It would be very helpful. And this is why I'm proud of Natasha. She's doing a great job. She's doing a great job there. So I'd like to see the community board have more input in decision-making and have a little more power than they have.
Great. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
We are waiting to see if we have anybody on Zoom who would like to testify. Do we have any comments so far from the members of the commission? And if you are on Zoom, if you can raise your hand, if you would like to speak, that would be helpful. We have Frank Morano. Frank, I know this is not your first Charter Commission hearing.
Unmute. This is true. It is my first Charter Commission hearing by Zoom. I hope you can hear me okay.
Yes, we can. And that's one of the good things about Zoom is we're able to get folks all over the place. So Frank, you're up.
Thank you very much. As President Chisura alluded to, I think I hold the distinction of testifying at more Charter Revision Commission hearings than any New Yorker in history. I've been doing this since 2002, and it's my intention to come to every meeting that you have and offer testimony. And it's not because I don't have anything better to do. I've never been busier on a personal and professional level, but it's because I have a lot of suggestions for things that you can consider. And it's because that I really think that you guys have the opportunity to shape the future of New York for a century. And the decisions that you make about what you're going to put before the ballot not only is going to affect New Yorkers for a century, but as you guys have already alluded to, what New York does really does set the pace for every municipality and many states throughout the entire country. And while I've had the opportunity to testify before 6 or 7 Charter Revision Commissions in the past, I don't think I've ever had one that has this unique mix of legends and public servants. So it's great to be here. The issue that I'm talking about today, and will in several subsequent hearings as well, is the issue of nonpartisan elections. And it's my hope that you guys will decide to put nonpartisan elections or some form of proportional representation, which New Yorkers had for 12 years in the 30s and 40s, on the ballot this November. There's two quotes that I want to share with you, which I really think hammer home the importance of this issue, both from New York City mayors. One is that there's no Democratic or Republican way to clean a street, which of course was said by Mayor LaGuardia. And the other one is this one. As it currently stands, the system of choosing candidates is not open to all New Yorkers. Our system of elections cannot continue to lock out legal registrants who decided that they do not want to be affiliated with any party, but rather want to vote based on the issues. That's a quote from Eric Adams in 2003, the last time New Yorkers were seriously considering transitioning to some form of nonpartisan elections. And he's exactly right. Only the situation has gotten much, much worse. We have turned a class of voters in this city into second-class citizens. Voters like me, political independents, of which there are about 1 million in New York City or close to it, have no meaningful say in our electoral process. We are in a position where we're paying taxes for elections that we can't participate in. We literally have a situation where it's taxation without representation, but it's not just political independents that are affected by this. We have Republicans in Democratic districts, and in the 2 or 3, Republican districts in the city, we have Democrats in Republican districts who have no meaningful say in the electoral outcome because they can't vote in the only part of the process that matters, the primary, even though they're paying the bill for this. Now, why do we want to convert to this now? Is this too soon to put on the ballot for November? No. New York City has a track record of nonpartisan special elections going back 36 years. We have had elections since 1988 conducted in a nonpartisan manner. They've gone well. The people that are elected there are no less equipped, no less functional, no less competent than every other elected official. So it's not fair to the voters. We are left out of every meaningful stage of the process. I'll point to a city council election in 2001 where Carlos Cesura was on the ballot, lost a Democratic primary, and then even though there were a lot of independents and Republicans in Brooklyn that wanted to vote for him in 2001, they didn't have the opportunity. How is that fair to them? It's also not fair to candidates. Max Rose, a member of this commission, was my congressman. Almost everybody agreed who pays attention to this stuff that he did a great job. He was praised by Republicans, by activists, by everybody. Almost everyone acknowledges that the reason he lost that election is because he was a Democrat. Now, what sense does that make? Why should people be relegated to a status of losing elections because they're in the wrong political party? Now, maybe you could understand it at Congress because there's some ideological aspects of it, but not when it comes to municipal services. These should be delivered in a non-ideological
Frank,
manner.
I love hearing you.
Last thing I'll say, please just put it on the ballot. Let the voters decide.
Frank, I have a thank you. While you're here, because I know this has been a passion of yours, at least at the last 2 charter commissions I've been on. Is it my understanding correct that many major US cities have what's called open primaries, where everyone can vote in a primary, and then I don't know if it's the final 2 or 3 go to the final. I think LA just had that election. Frank, are you still on? He is not on. Okay, but you are. Frank, did you hear me? Are you on mute?
Yes, can you hear me now?
Okay.
They muted.
I don't know if you heard my question.
I heard your question, and I thought it was a good one and a very apt one. About half of the cities in this country, half the largest cities in this country, including Los Angeles, have some form of nonpartisan elections, including, yes, Los Angeles. In fact, every municipality in California has nonpartisan elections. It's in their state constitution. And San Francisco, Oakland, Albany, they have combined 2 aspects of this that we have in New York. nonpartisan elections, and ranked choice voting. And yet the world has not stopped spinning on its axis in those municipalities. Chicago is the same thing. Half of the cities in this country, it works well. Everyone gets to participate. Everyone gets a fair shake.
So Frank, are you saying, and I just want to make sure that I understand you, some of the cities that have what you're calling nonpartisan elections also have ranked choice voting, which New York has.
That's right. And we've tried that with special elections, and it's worked well. But yes, every municipality in California has open primaries or nonpartisan elections. And in California, you have San Francisco, Oakland, Berkeley, San Leandro, Albany. They all have both ranked choice elections for city office and nonpartisan elections. The two
Great.
are not contradictory at all. It can easily be done in New York City, and I hope you'll give New Yorkers the choice as to whether it should be done.
Thank you, Frank. Any,
I just have a
yes,
question. I have a question. Under this scenario, would then the general elections be obsolete?
no. So the way I know it works in several other cities is you have a primary. So our primaries are in June. And let me just be clear, because I know Frank mentioned Max Rose. Obviously, this would only be for New York City elections because we have no role on federal or state. So the way it works in many other cities is you have a primary and everybody runs in the primary. So Republicans, Democrats, working families, non-registered, anybody can run in that primary. And then the top two, top three, depending, will face each other in November. So there is still a primary and still a general. The difference is, under this scenario, rather than a Republican primary where only Republicans vote, a Democratic primary where only Democrats vote, you would have one primary and everybody gets to vote, including, a lot of people who didn't choose a party affiliation.
But they're not precluded from choosing somebody in the general election.
They can then choose whoever they want in the general election. So let's say 8 people run in the June primary, the top 2 people, whatever they are, right? Democrat, Republican, Independent, et cetera, they finish 1 and 2.
I get it.
They then run against each other in November.
I get it.
Okay.
I understand that.
All right, good.
I'm just saying that that's in order, we're not stopping. I don't think that, anyway, we'll talk about that.
Okay. All right. Anybody else on Frank's comments? Thank you, Frank. Kimberly Ames.
Good morning. My name is Kimberly Combs. I am the Redfern Council, Resident Council President here in Far Rockaway, New York, a NYCHA development here in Far Rockaway. I'm also a member of the Queens Community Board 14, as well as the NAACP Branch 2213 in Far Rockaway. I wanted to, well, first I would like to say, I received the email last night for this meeting at 9:11 p.m. for this morning at 10. So that means I had to switch things around. I had no idea this was happening, but I am on, so I am blessed. However, I don't know the name of the woman that spoke before Mr. Frank. I was agreeing with her because here in Far Rockaway, when it rains hard or when the tide is high, Far Rockaway is flooded. I live on Beach Channel Drive in Sandy, which was 12 years ago. Beach Channel Drive was a raging river, and that is the route to evacuate. So I have concerns. I'm a part of a group called the People's Police Academy, and our group has been formulating evacuation information to residents in case another storm like Sandy, a severe storm like Sandy happens, that we're able to get out. We're able to evacuate. So our issues have been with the flooding on a day, a beautiful day, and the tide is high, most of Far Rockaway is underwater. Some people are losing it's their basements. I live in a building, but when it rains hard, the entire intersection is flooded way past the sidewalk, where if you don't have on waders, and I don't know how many fishermen or fisher people that fish are here who know what waders are. Waders are those pants you wear when you fish in the river. If you don't have those on, you're not able to come and go. Your car will be flooded and the cars are floating and being destroyed. So I don't have any solutions, but I'm asking, is there any way that Far Rockaway, Queens, period, can get some help when it comes to the flooding, the severe flooding that's happening in our community? And I happen to live in a low income community, so a lot of our residents are disabled, seniors, and may not even have the finances or family to go to. So we would end up going to shelters, but that's not my question. My question is, can someone help us when it comes to the flooding that happens in our community? Thank you, and I yield.
Thank you very much. And we will certainly bring your comments to the relevant city agency. I just want to be clear that our vice chair, Hazel Dukes, is on the Zoom. Good morning, Hazel. Thank you for being here. Yes, sir.
Is it in order to back up the question on nonpartisan?
Sure, go ahead.
Election, it's just resonating in my mind. If the 1 and 2 candidates are of the same party, how does that work? In other words, if the person who gets the most votes, as I understand, the 2 persons who get the most votes are both Republicans, are both Democrats, they will continue with the election, although that's one party.
Correct. So the way, at least my understanding, the way it works in California is when you run in this primary, what they call an open primary, that allows every voter to participate, 2 people will make it to the general election in November. It doesn't matter what party they are. So yes, you could have 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans, 2 independents, 2 whatever.
So in a real sense, you're still locked into some kind of partisan politics.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Good question.
Good question.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr.
No,
President.
thank you for bringing that up. Yatin, I know you wanted to add one more thing, and I generally don't do this, but we like to hear from people, so go ahead.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It's on 2 different topics since I'm here. I want to actually reiterate the prior speaker regarding changes to our primary elections. In full disclosure, I've been an advisor to a group called Final Five. We advocate for open primaries. And I believe it's an important election reform that should be considered by all New Yorkers. I got involved with this open primary reform because I noticed that Asian communities, Asian registered voters are often not affiliated with a party. In looking at the data of districts that have high Asian voters, up to 1/3 of the voters do not have a party affiliation. They are blanks, or what we call unaffiliated voters. And I just feel like our closed system, number one, is a hard system for people to understand, especially immigrants that want to get involved. And 2, by the time they vote in November, they're getting, I want to say, stuff that other people pick for them, a very limited choice. And I think that is not what our democracy is about. I very much want you to consider this to put as a referendum in terms of opening up our primaries in New York. As the prior speaker said, there are models of it that's been working well. And look, I spoke to people in the party, both the Democrat Party, as well as one of the smaller parties, the Conservative. No one wants to change this. So we're not going to be able to make these type of reforms by leaning on the people that are in power today. We need to give that to the people of New York and let them decide. So that's point number one. The second thing, which may not be so popular with the mayor, I've been a strong voice in opposing the city of yes. It is a ill-conceived plan that takes away the right of local communities to decide for ourselves what's right and how we choose to live. I've been to a number of community board meetings. I've heard presentations dozens of times. And look, they're coming after, the plan is coming after 1 and 2 family zone neighborhoods, and it's wrong. We represent less than 25% of the entire city. Whatever housing shortage that you want to handle should not be done on the backs of tax-paying, high property tax-paying homeowners in the city. We moved to the outer rims of Eastern Queens, Southern Brooklyn for a reason. We want a little more green space. We're inconvenienced by that. And what this plan is going to do is uproot everything that we have built and invested in our properties, in our homes. You know, specifically, the elimination of parking is outrageous. Have you driven around parts of Queens where I live? We cannot find parking. Houses are getting bigger within their zone, and we have multi-generational families that now live because housing is expensive, and we have 3 or 4 cars. So if you are visiting someone, you can't find parking. How can we build more if there's no consideration for parking? The other is the infrastructure, as
I
someone
just
said.
want to have you wrap it up.
Yes, I will wrap it up. I understand this is a contentious issue. Look, I've been an education advocate. The class size law, which I think the mayor has been, you know, pretty reasonable on. We can't even handle families that live now in these neighborhoods, okay, with the schools that we have. In 25, 26 school district, we are busting out. And unless you're building hundreds of more schools, how can we do the city of yes? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, do we have any more speakers on Zoom? If we could just get someone to grab, one of the staffers, to grab the names. Thank you for your help. We have Sharif on the phone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'm gonna second what the previous lady just mentioned about parking. Parking in Queens is atrocious. It's not realistic to think that we're all going to turn to public transportation, with public transportation being the way it is. For example, I live in Jackson Heights. I want to go to Astoria. I have tried to take the Q66 bus, which travels down Northern Boulevard. It takes 3 times as long to take the bus to go 40 or 50 blocks than it does to take my car. Just the other day, I looked it up. It's at 45 minutes versus my car, which was 15 minutes. The idea of saving the environment is a good one that I'm fully in support of. But it's childish and immature to think that we're just going to remove New York City from the rest of the United States where motor vehicles are required. So I just wanted to bring up the issue about parking. My second issue is that taxes are used to run elections. Yet as an independent, I'm shut out of this process. So I pay for it with my taxes, but I'm not allowed to make a voice, to give my voice unless I sign up to one of the 2 parties. And I think that's wrong in many ways. Maybe if the parties themselves pay for their primary elections, at least primary elections, I might be okay with it. But if you're going to take my money and not take my voice, I fail to see how that's even constitutional. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Do we have any more Zoom testimony? No. Is there anyone else here who has not testified that would like to? No. Okay, I'm going to turn it to the commissioners for any comments. Yes, ma'am.
Hello again. I'm Jackie Rowe Adams. And I just want to say to all of you, I really appreciate you because it is time that we speak up and speak out so we could get things done. So I want you to know that you are appreciated. And I do want to thank the mayor for giving us an opportunity to hear the voices of our city, of our community, and I always say of our world. So this is good, and we're looking forward to working with you all. So let's keep it going, and let's take back our community, and let's take back our city by doing the work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I echo that. We really appreciate everyone who came out today, the folks on the Zoom. I know everyone's busy, so we all have to make a little time for this. So we're going to have another hearing in Queens before the end of this month. It will be in the evening. We will get notice out ASAP. And we are going to be working today and tomorrow to get a full list of hearings for the coming few weeks. At least it would be my desire, and I've heard from many of the commissioners, our desire to have a full list of hearings for the month of June by the end of this week. And then this way, it allows people to schedule accordingly. We will continue to accept public testimony on the website that I read earlier. And tomorrow we will be in the great borough of Staten Island. And I look forward to seeing all of you there. And I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Thank you. Second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Thank you very much. And again, Borough President Donovan Richards, thank you for hosting us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you all.
This is great.
Let me get your number. Because I need to, I want to, next week, I'm going on vacation tomorrow. But I want to hear from your, I want to hear your experiences from this, being on this previous.